Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke, and today is the 8th of April, 2025, and it's finally a nice day, but it's going to be cold all this week. Good morning to Alex, who's already on and said good morning to me already. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be a nicer day. It is a day off for me, so I'm grateful for that. I am meeting up with my British friends in the afternoon via Zoom. Looks like, if everybody can make it, so that'll be nice. I have to say, last night I went taught last night, and good morning that afternoon. Hello, Alistair. Yes, because it's afternoon where you are, morning where we are. Speaking of Britain, and good morning, Suda. Good to see you. Yeah, I slept really, really good last night. I feel like I had to go teaching last night, and I had a student who was kind of talking to me right up until it was like, okay, I have to go. I went out and I got home. I guess I got home probably like around 7:30. And Kelsey, good morning. Good to see you. So I had gotten this. I got home at about, I guess, 7:30, and I stayed up for a little while, drinking more of my mushroom coffee that I was talking about yesterday. And then, of course, I always do a cortisol detox gummy before I go to bed. And I feel like I woke up maybe one time or so around before 10. And then, because I went to bed at 8:30, I was just so tired. And then I didn't wake up till almost 6 this morning. I was just out cold. So I'm not complaining about that because as many of you can attest to, there's nothing worse than a night when you just lay there tossing and turning and you can't sleep. And especially at my age, it's like you throw the covers on, off. And it's been good to just kind of be able to sleep through the night. So that's good. And yeah, I know I definitely have a day off today. I'm probably going to be recording a special Patreon podcast today I think I was going to do something on the Egyptian idea of the soul, because that's a much more complex idea than the one that we tend to think of. I mean, I tend to know the Greek and Roman one best, but that one, and I had a few more grades to finish up. But other than that, I just want to take it easy today and relax and enjoy the sunshine and Kathleen, good morning. I'm just very, oh, and by the way, Kathleen, I hope you enjoyed I saw your thing for the weekend. I hope you had a good time. And I don't know if I even emailed you back, because I feel like I'm trying to remember if you emailed me on Friday, and maybe that's when it was. And that was when I had my headache. So I don't know if I actually responded to you. So yeah, it looks like you had a great time this weekend. So I'm really happy about that. So I have, Joanne was talking to me a little bit this morning. I don't know if she's going to be on the live in a little bit, but somebody had posted a video about sun signs and saying, that and it was on TikTok, so I couldn't really watch it, but the gist of it seemed to be that you're not really your sun sign, that only the cardinal signs are really have true, that their sun sign is accurate, because somehow I think he was measuring it according to the equinoxes and the solstices and saying, oh no, those are the only accurate measurements of what your actual sun sign is. And I'm like, no, that is the good morning. Weird. It kept taking me to yesterday's live. Oh, that's interesting, Joanne. So yeah, it was interesting. I was just talking to Joanne about what you just sent to me. And yeah, the idea that so the cardinal signs would be Aries, Cancer, Virgo, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Those would be the cardinals, that they're the only ones with true sun signs. So this conversation again, the sun sign variance law. Yeah, exactly. And truthfully, the only sun sign variance is you look at it between Western astrology and sidereal or Vedic astrology. Sidereal astrology does actually have the exact time. They have it correct. And sidereal astrology, is it's usually 24 degrees different. As I've told people, Western astrology is based on 0 degrees of Aries at the equinox, and that is actually considered to be not an accurate measurement with respect to where planets are in the sky. It's only accurate with regard to the sun's daylight and its positioning with respect to Earth, whether it's at its apogee, its perigee, or and again, that's going to depend. It has to do with the tilt of the Earth and where we're at with regard to how much sunlight the northern or the southern hemisphere is going to have. But it's not. It has absolutely nothing to do with your sign in the sense that we do tend to measure cardinal, fixed, and mutable based on that, but it's not an indicator of your sun sign. Your sun sign is probably one of the least accurate things. Someone does this every year, I swear. Then it causes a big mess of confusion. Oh, right at the end of Mercury retrograde too, right? Yeah, I mean, just perfect timing. Yeah, and so anyway, it was just kind of an interesting. I didn't realize people do this every year. That's almost kind of like the news article you get every year that they reuse about some kind of a thing that is, I don't know, pointless or inaccurate. But yeah, it's not. Your sun sign in Western astrology is based on 0 degrees Aries, and it's what you call it. So it's based on 0 degrees Aries. And then it's also based on in sidereal astrology, it's actually based on where the planets actually are. So if you want to know what constellation your planets are actually in, where the sun actually is, where the moon actually is, yeah, it gets the clicks. Yeah, people saying, "What? I don't have it right." And truthfully, I mean, astrology is something you can calculate from a lot of different places, a lot of different milieus. You can, like I said, you can do astrology from the point of view of the sun. You can do astrology from the point of view of any of the planets. Astrology is really a matter of perspective, and we tend to do it from the perspective of the Earth and the horizon point, and that's the way that we determine it. But yeah, Vedic astrology is going to be more accurate in terms of where things actually are in the sky. And it is 23 degrees behind. So typically, but it doesn't change anything with the cardinal signs. So if you're an Aries and you're born, let's just say you're born this week, okay? According to Vedic astrology, you're a Pisces, okay? You're still in Pisces. Aries does not begin in Vedic astrology till around the 14th of April. So there's a lot of people who are considered Gandanta, who are kind of on that Pisces Aries cusp, who in Western astrology would be solidly Aries, which begins on March the 20th. Just subscribed. Oh, thank you very much. So there's not a, there's a, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of people who try to do these calculations. And as I was saying to Joanne, I'm not going to criticize anybody for bad math, but because I'm not necessarily a math genius either. But, I have to look at it from the point of view of, it's just like, I would not confidently assert anything based on mathematics because, because it's just literally, I think, a misunderstanding of the mathematics. And again, maybe it's just somebody who's picked up that idea and said, I'm picking up this idea and kind of running with it, like, because it seems to make sense, but it actually doesn't. Cardinal signs don't necessarily have their positions in the sky, or not. They're not necessarily accurate according to Western astrology either. There really no signs are. They're usually one behind. So like I said, I'm Taurus in Western astrology. I'm definitely Aries in Vedic astrology. But also remember, in Vedic astrology, your sun sign really doesn't matter. All that tells you is where the light shines, like where your personality is, what people see. It doesn't have anything to do with really what's hidden about you, I guess, unless maybe your sun's in the 12th house. It doesn't really have anything to do with that. Your sun, and it may have to do with areas where maybe you'll have success and be recognized. I mean, whatever house placement it is, it might tell you that. But typically, like in sidereal astrology, it's your ascendant that matters. Where was the sun, or what sign were you in at the time you were born? Okay, that's where your ascendant is. That's when the sun was rising on your chart. So when you look at a round astrological chart, that line through the middle is, like, if I'm looking out at the eastern sky right now, that would be where the planets are, if I could see them. If you're born in the middle of the day, obviously you don't see them as well. but where they would be and where the sun would be. Like that's actually what you're getting a picture of, what the sky looked like at the time you were born. So that is what's accurate. And typically your moon sign is considered to be something that has more of a importance than the sun sign. So because the moon is more connected intimately to matters of the soul. So yeah. So anyway, just interesting little tidbit that came up this morning, and I just thought, since it just came up, I will mention it here. But what I wanted to do today is I want to go back to doing some readings for today and see what we have. And I'm going to do I actually pulled out the Between Worlds deck because I haven't used this one in a while, and I do like it. And those of you who are fans of birds, I mean, this is definitely the bird deck. And so I'm going to use this. We are in this last week. I think it's interesting that we're in this last week of Venus retrograde, and at least where I live, it's very, very cold this week. And I'm like, but it's going to warm up again after that. So I don't know. This last week of these have been really, really trying retrogrades. I don't know about for everybody else, but I can tell you that just about everybody I've talked to and seen on social media is like, oh my God, you know, when are these retrogrades going to end? Because they're just, it's been a doozy. It has definitely been a doozy with every aspect, whether you're talking about relationship, whether you're talking about, well, I'm not an astrologer. It's not my forte. So I asked. I don't pretend to know what I don't. No, it's fair enough. I mean, yeah, you asked me and you asked Storm Sestavani, who actually, yeah, I mean, between the two of us in astrology, I feel he's probably far more experienced because this is what he does. This is his gig. This is what he does full time. So I do this as part of other things that I do, but I'm not like a full-time astrologer. So yeah, so I would definitely, I mean, and I know he said the same thing more or less that I said. So I was like, okay, same with Michigan. We're back to very cold days, ready to get moving forward. Yeah, it's just something about this week, but this weekend with the full moon is going to be the end of Venus retrograde. And yeah, it's supposed to be, I got a lot of messages this morning. I mean, Azrael literally said something to me this morning about, what was it? Lake Talok, which is kind of like, you know, I am death. So I was like, okay, something, I mean, he doesn't tend to say that unless he's kind of acting in that kind of role. So I think he's telling me that there's going to be some endings somewhere. I don't know if, you know, who he's referring to or what he's referring to. And I have a feeling it has more to do with me or with my family. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. Having so many personal planets go retrograde in a row has been tiresome. Yes, you're right, Kelsey. It's really, yeah, exactly. It's not, it's having Venus and Mercury at the same time. And because they're so close to the Earth, it really, you know, people act like, oh yeah, haha, it's no big deal. And yeah, I mean, people will say, oh, this stuff can happen anytime during the year. And yeah, technically that is true. It's not like the astrology suddenly changes it, but it's like the astrology just like makes it 10 times worse. I mean, you can have a headache, and you can have headaches anytime during the year. But when it really ramps up to the point that you just feel like somebody's like running a drill through your head, and Joanne said, yes, he did. Yeah, that, you know, somebody's putting a drill in the side of your head, then, you know, it's something a little bit more than just something that you can then brush off. And yeah, there has been all kinds of weirdness this Mercury and Venus retrograde. I don't even want to get into it, but I'll be really, really glad when all of the retrogrades are really moving forward again. But yeah, we are going to be moving into, well, this whole year is going to be interesting. The whole next 2 years are going to be interesting. Okay, so this is interesting because this card's flopped out like 3 times now. And the first card that I have here for today is called Productivity. Okay, I'm going to tell you what that what that card says, because this obviously when it's an oracle deck, I do like to kind of talk about what the creator has to say a lot of the times. Okay, it says if you want to get something done, set an intention. This card heralds important work, but also the mess of being inside of it. Can you balance a plan with a flexibility for what's happening in the moment? Organize, listen, iterate, adapt. Still, things rarely go as planned. Can you bring a care and a presence to the act of work itself, be whatever it is? Okay, I think that's an interesting card to show up because I do know that Uranus is in an interesting aspect to both Venus and the moon today, from what I remember seeing in Rick Levine's thing this morning. So it can bring unexpected messages, unexpected surprises. I've seen a whole lot of that. Something about basically like we have to keep going and continue doing our work, but be prepared for things to shift. We still have that energy in right now that is going to potentially, again, us plodding along according to our plan and according to our schedule and what we have for the week, and then having everything, you know, just kind of, I don't know, having something come in that actually completely upsets the apple cart, so to speak, where we have to stop and we have to respond to whatever's coming in. Now, it's interesting because disruptions sometimes we think of as bad things, right? We always say, oh, if there's going to be a disruption, it's going to be a negative. But disruptions can be good things too. I mean, think about the times that you're, you know, moseying along doing your things, and then all of a sudden you run into friends and they're like, hey, let's go out. And, you know, and then you go out and have a good time with your friends. I mean, sometimes unexpected things are good things and fun things. They're not necessarily bad things. Or I will be in the middle of my day working, doing my grading, doing whatever I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, like a student will pop in and say, oh, hey, I need to have, can I have a chat with you? And so we'll do a Zoom call. And then the chat with the student will just be so interesting and so helpful to the student. It's like, oh, okay, that's a derailment from my schedule, but it was a happy derailment because that person got something that they needed at that point. And even though, yeah, it puts me behind on something else I'm doing, I feel, well, that's really authentically why I teach, right? The reason that I do it is because I want to be able to be there for people and I want to be able to help them. And again, it's not that I know everything, because I don't, but areas where there can be conversations and where we can work things out. And this goes for my university students, and it also goes for the students who I have and everything else. Like a lot of people on here have been students of mine in different capacities. And yeah, I mean, my whole thing is at the end of the day, you know, I want to have that conversation and I want you to walk away with something that is helpful to you in you know, whether I'm giving you a new tool to work with or whether it's just helping you think something through for yourself. Okay. Yeah. So productivity is making me think of that. It's remember we have Saturn and Uranus in aspect to each other right now. It's a positive aspect. So it's almost the idea of, yes, we are being productive. We have that kind of Saturnian energy, or how'd you call it? The Saturnian energy that says that we need to focus on our work and focus on building things and focus on the structure, not just there's the Piscean element of, our imagination and what we're thinking about. But Saturn says, well, okay, but bring that down to earth, you know, come up with a plan, have a structure, be able to bring it, you know, ground that energy. But with a card like this, it's also bringing that Uranus factor in, which I think is really interesting. And this, like I said, this card flipped out like 3 times this morning. So obviously this is an important message. So I feel like that could mean that with the influences right now, a lot of us could be experiencing disruptions. Okay. We could end up being disrupted, you know, in what we're doing, but it's a matter of flowing with it, saying, okay, there's this disruption, but you know, even if it throws us off our course, even if it says, okay, this means that I have to delay doing this particular thing or doing that thing. And yeah, I understand the frustration of that. Like I was saying the other day about the sword of Damocles, where you feel like you've got all of this work ahead of you. Like when I know I have to prepare for a class I haven't taught before, it's just kind of like, I like doing the classes, but, and I'm not just talking about the transition life coaching classes. I'm also talking about classes that I do, you know, for university students. And it's just, you know, having to prepare for it, even if you know what you're talking about, having to make sure that you've adequately prepared everything that they need, it takes up a lot of time. You know, if you're going to prepare a presentation for people to look at, it takes time. A lot of people don't have an attention span. So one of my students was talking to me about that last night because he was lamenting that there was a lot of students in the class. He's somebody who's very engaged and likes to talk, and he says, I feel bad. He says that a lot of these other people are just kind of sitting there. I said, well, that's what they all do. I don't I don't even pay attention to that anymore. And I don't even see that as necessarily a sign of non-engagement. Because as I said, a lot of times they're looking up the stuff that you're there while you're talking about something. They're like, oh, the professor just said this, I'm going to look this up. And I know that they do that. They sit there and they do that because they've come up after and said, oh yeah, you were talking about this. Like some of them will come. They make it clear to me from their homework, and they make it clear to me from what they say to me that they have been listening. It's just that they have a different way of listening. They're not, they're used to doing like several things while they're listening to you. Now, I don't think that's the best thing, but I'm also well aware that that's what they're doing, and they're not trying to be like disrespectful or, you know, they don't care what you have to say. They're not, it's not that kind of a setup. And so, yeah, so I mentioned to them, I said, well, that's not something that bothers me, because I do still have a sufficient number of students who do engage. So I was like, if nobody engaged, then I feel like Ben Stein and, you know, what was it? Or hopefully not talking in that kind of a monotone. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he's just anyone, you know. Fortunately, I don't tend to have classes like that. So yeah, so it's interesting. At any rate, this is about productivity and the way which our productivity could potentially be disrupted, I guess. And so just basically saying whatever may interrupt you, it's kind of like flow with it. Don't let it make you say, well, I had that interruption, so I don't need to keep going. I can just stop now. It doesn't have to stop everything dead, but it's a matter of how you kind of flow with it, I guess, is what this card is about. Now, our second card is interesting. This is the Ancestry card. Okay. And Ancestry, okay, so let's see what Ryan has to say about that. Your ancestors of blood and spirit are with you. Get to know them and be open to their messages. This card also draws from the power of mentorship and intergenerational relationships. Interesting that I was just talking about students and this comes up, but from whose wisdom do you draw for the road ahead? And what legacy do you leave for those who follow? Now, that's interesting to show up in connection to our productivity, because I think that has been a big question for a lot of us. A lot of us have had issues around the fourth house, which is the house of home and family. And I mean, there are other houses that deal with ancestry in the chart, but I feel like there's been a lot that's been called into question over the last few months, maybe even in last year, about what ideas have you inherited and how many of them are still appropriate to your path forward. What is an example of the way we've always done it that can be discarded or gotten rid of, right? I mean, or what is something that a value we need to hold on to right now, right? It can go either way. But yeah, ancestry, and it's interesting because I like the way that he couches ancestry here as suggesting that it's not just about what your family teaches you, but it's also about what the collective teaches you. It's also about, you know, who educated you, right? When you were raised, when you went to school. Our ideas and our identity tend to be formed not only by our family and our family connections, whether positively or negatively, but also about what we learn. You know, we go to school from a very young age. Now kids today, my gosh, like I think of my grandnieces, they're in school at, you know, they're already like, you know, like Charlie, who's my grandniece, who's going to have her birthday next week, is, you know, she's not even 1 year old yet. She could be one next Saturday, and it's like she's already been in school. Her sister is only 3 and has already been in school and has already been learning like a couple different languages and all this different stuff. I mean, not because her parents are trying to push her into anything, but that's what they teach them at daycare. You know, now I remember the first time I saw textbooks for kindergartners, I mean, or at least manuals that the teachers' manuals that was trying to teach them math and science and stuff like that. And I was like, well, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. I mean, like, why, you know, kindergartners, aren't you learning to like tie your shoe and like, you know, making putting things on construction paper with glitter and, you know, stuff. At least that's what they were doing. Of course, when did I go to kindergarten? What, 1977? So yeah, that was kind of a long time ago. And back when I was a child, preschool was not a thing. Only certain people went to preschool. Like the idea, most people didn't go to preschool or daycare. So, but again, it was just that. They may also have just been the neighborhood I grew up in too. Obviously, context is everything. But I didn't know really anybody who had been to preschool. But even so, it was just kind of like, okay, this is where you just kind of learn the basics, basics of social things. It was mostly play and them getting, them reading to you and so on and so forth. Now it's like there's all this stuff. By the time you're in kindergarten, it's like, nope. And then there's graduations from kindergarten now. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And I think that's been around for a while. But yeah, it's almost like by the time you're 5 or 6 years old, you've already hit some kind of an educational milestone, which I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like as a child, you should just be playing and trying to figure things out, because all of that other stuff will come in. Teaching you the rules of the world will all come in. And Kathleen says, kindergarten is so different these days. No thing shoes, no nap times. It's real work. Yeah. And I'm thinking, developmentally, what does that do? Like, is it, I mean, obviously kids survive it, but then by the time they get to college or to university, they're already bored with information. They've been learning their entire life and they're sick of it. They probably want to play at that point. I mean, that's already a thing when somebody's free for the first time, no tying shoes. Oh, okay. That's what that was going to say. I was like, I think she means something else there. It's probably an autocorrect thing. Yeah, that was, oh yeah, no, I remember in kindergarten, it was like you had if you could be in the, what was it? What did she have? Like the I Can Tie My Shoe Club. Like if you could show that you could tie your shoe, then she put your name up there. Yeah, I mean, it's different. But I find that I don't know if it's better. There's people who say, yes, this is better, and the kids are better equipped and this and that. I'm like, no, I just think they're completely overwhelmed by the time, as one of my friends said, who was an elementary ed teacher, she says, I think by the time they're in 6th grade, they've just shut off. They don't, unless they have a real intellectual curiosity, they've just shut off and they've kind of pulled themselves back into a dream world or whatever, and they don't want to, which can happen anyway. I mean, that is part of normal development. When somebody's a teenager, when they go sit in their room and put their earbuds in and ignore you for the next 4 years. Yeah. Alex says, I worked in a Montessori teaching setting with 18 months to 3 years. It was less about information and more about this is your environment and what interests you. Yeah, Montessori learning. It's funny you bring that up, Alex, because actually, and my friend who I'm talking about did actually teach in a Montessori school, and then she taught in a regular public school. But it was, yeah, with Montessori education, I remember when I was in 6th grade, our science teacher, he was like always on about the Montessori. Oh, it's Montessori kids, like, like they were, I don't know, like designing architectural plans at 7 or something. Like he was, the way he would talk about them, it might have been somewhat exaggerated, but he was apparently very impressed with Montessori education. But yeah, exactly. That method is more about trying to find what interests you. And like I said, I don't think, and love Montessori. Yeah, I think Maria Montessori's method does seem to be, there's something about it that's, it's a little less closed and a little more free range. It lets you, it allows the imagination to develop in the way that I think it's probably the way the human brain is designed. I think trying to overload us with so much information too early is not healthy. But again, in this mishmash of things, and in a system where, when we've talked mythologically about people not having any guidance to move them forward, if we even go back to Joseph Campbell in the late 80s saying there are no, people are abandoning religion, people are abandoning all kinds of systems. And by the way, this is not me making a plug for re-embracing organized religion or saying everybody needs to embrace it, because it's absolutely not. But because you can't go back and re-embrace something that, whereas to use the expression genie is out of the bottle, you can't, when something has fundamentally changed, we can't just insist that, well, this was better for us, so we're going to go back to it. It doesn't work like that. And when things have fundamentally changed like that, yeah, the question then becomes, okay, in this world of ideas and in this world of being bombarded with too much information every day, we were talking yesterday about lateral reading and about how to analyze information. When you see a website that looks very official and has statistics and has all the things and, ooh, it sounds like an important institute, how do you verify that this is actually a legitimate institute? Or how do you verify what their agenda is, Joanne says, developmentally, kids are not ready for certain things. They need to play and explore. 100%. And I think regardless of what type of psychology you embrace, I mean, kids, I think, yeah, when you're younger, there's this idea that somehow with kids having imagination that that's bad, like they have to be fenced in by rationality at a very young age. And I understand parents, it can be very frustrating if you're dealing with a child who you can't reason with, right? You're waiting for reason to kick in so you can have a normal conversation, I guess. I mean, again, I've never had kids, so, but I've seen this in action. And, so I understand that, but that's not, yeah, there needs to be this space of, believing in things. I think biologically things change with us. And when they do, naturally, certain things change. I think of the man in Iceland. It was a documentary on fairies. And he said that he was talking about as a child how he saw the fairies and how the rocks would open up and that this woman would come out and she would give him these little cakes and this and that. And again, with me with this stuff, whether it's literally true or not, I mean, I don't make a judgment. I don't just say, oh, haha, you're a child with an imagination. I don't know. I think I am one of those people who thinks that the brain is a filter. And I think we pride ourselves as we grow up as now we're rational and sensible and we're in this world and we know how things really are. And I don't know that we necessarily do. I think we have just decided we have created structures of order that have closed us off to things that are more in the wonder of life because they may not make sense or they may be paradoxical or they may be too I don't know. I mean, not everything, sometimes things are frightening, right? So these are ways in which we try to conquer our environment and try to order things. But I remember him talking about having these experiences. This was an older man. And then he said, and then he actually literally said, and then my testicles dropped, meaning like he had become an adolescent. And it was just in the midst of everything he was saying, it was just kind of one of those phrases. He said, and then the doors closed and I never saw them again. And he seemed kind of sad about it. And it might go back to kind of, I think, Joanne, you were saying something yesterday about childhood and looking back to the past. And I wonder if that's kind of part of it. Like what in our ancestry, not only do we need to let go of, but what also have we lost? And is there a way to regain that? Because chemically, we have this change that goes on. And now we're more focused on our social identity if we're talking about developmental psych. By the time you're a teenager, you're now figuring out how you fit in, right? And a lot of times that can bring about a withdrawal. Kids can pull back because if they've been in a space where it has been a state of play and now it's like a cold water has been dumped on that, then it's just kind of like, okay, where am I now? Who am I? I'm trying to figure this out. And it may be that it also tends to be a period of what they call demythologization. It's where you say, okay, I've, where you've spent your time believing certain things, and then there's a real world reality that comes in and may mess that up for you. And it may make you bitter. It may make you feel betrayed. I think one good example of that, where jumping stage is not healthy. No, I agree, Joanne, totally. And so I keep thinking about the way in which we are doing this. And with demythologization, okay, I was going to say the example that I was thinking of was, okay, like when somebody is raised in a particular religion, right? And if you're somebody, say, who went to CCD or you went to Catholic school, I'm just thinking from a Catholic perspective because that's what I grew up with. And then they teach you, like I remember all the little books. It'd be like, God made the world, and then this happened, and then that happened. And you kind of believe, as a child, everything is literal, right? A lot of things are literal. They understand things in a more literal kind of a sense. But then as they get older, and then, or, God's good, God takes care of everything. And then, I don't know, let's just say a beloved grandparent dies or something. Okay. Rush childhoods. I think I haven't considered that directly. Yeah, it's something. Well, anybody who's taken the ISFM courses knows that, and when I did my presentation on life initiations and so forth. And by the way, people who weren't in the school, that is available. That recording is available on the ISFM if you wanted to order it to get access to it. It's kind of. it's when you have that transition there. So okay, religiously, let's just say a child accepted that, and then I take like a beloved grandparent dies, and then it becomes like, well, why did God take that person away from me, right? This is just a very simple example, but it's probably one that's not necessarily particularly deep and maybe very relatable for a lot of people, or just somebody else significant where something terrible happens and they say, well, God's supposed to be good. Why did God do this to me? So this is a point of demythologization, where a reality confronts you that does not fit in with the image that you've had. It doesn't fit in with the picture that you were given. And so then people can get very, very angry and say, well, I hate God now and I'm angry. And, I mean, this is where it's a very simple example, but it's probably one of the most common ones, where you experience something for the first time that's contrary to your worldview in a big way, in a way that impacts you very strongly emotionally. Death is something that can create a big void for people, regardless of what the relationship was like, but especially with people who were close to you. You can feel like that. I've lost so many people in my life. It's like I'm thinking, how many people are left, like in terms of family anyway. But no matter what, even when it's expected, there's always this sense of void that's there. It's almost like, I hate to compare it to this, but it's almost like when you empty out your house when you're going to move, and all of a sudden the space is empty, and now there's something uncanny about it. There's something uncanny about the fact that that person isn't there anymore. It's like, okay, that was a living being who had some kind of influence. Again, everybody, not all relationships are positive, but whether positive or negative, there's a void where that person was. And that's what we have to negotiate. What are we going to negotiate? Negotiating that empty space. And typically, it's not about them, because when a person dies, they're released to whatever's next for them, however we conceive of that, and they're fine. It's really us, and it's kind of like, okay, now that this person is absent, how does this change me? Now, how do I negotiate that space? And so that's where we have the sorrow and the grief and mourning and things like that. But ancestry, I think, is an interesting second card here. From that perspective, not only our ancestry, but what we've learned growing up. And speaking of rushed childhoods, Sudha, I'm also thinking about what I had posted from Philemon is Alive, where he was talking about the way in which, whether or not, there's the question of whether developmental psych is really, does it really reflect the reality of development these days? Is the kind of things that were developed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, with developmental psych, does it really apply now? Because kids seem to be going through very grown-up things at very, very young ages. And how does that, when you have somebody who's born into a situation like that, and I suppose that's always been the case. Probably now it's just talked about more, whereas before maybe it was not. But there's just something there that, yeah, it's like, it's when that happens, when people don't make the transitions in the order that's expected. And when children don't have that period of time to imagine and to play and all that kind of things. I think sometimes this is why people want to play as adults too, because it's like, I spent my childhood doing that. Now I want to figure out play somewhere. But again, in terms of the way our brains develop and everything else, how is that different? I mean, I don't know. I think we're facing a new kind of psychology. And the question is, I mean, do we need to go? I feel almost like this is why we're all being pushed to, let's go back to a space where we are, where play is acceptable, where we're not looking to rush, where we want to be here and enjoy life. Okay, looks like I've lost connection to the channel. It says, hold on, we're connecting to your channels. To activate chat, please. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right, hopefully you guys can still see me. Can somebody let me know if they have, if I'm still on, if you can see me, because this seemed to have just disconnected and I reconnected it, but something really weird happened. So yeah, if you can drop me a message, I may just end the live stream here, but I will finish up. So in case anybody wants to finish in retrospect, it's still showing 5 people on. So maybe you're still here and I just can't see you, but yeah, no lost connection, everything good. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, for some reason it just popped up with this thing of like, we're trying to connect to your channel. So I was like, whoops. Yeah, I'll finish up because we're actually at 8:09. Thank you, Alex. Hello. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you had a drop connection there, but it just gave me a drop connection message. So yeah, hopefully working fine for me. Good. Okay. It was just me. You're on. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, Joanne popped in from Messenger. Okay. Next card, humility. Okay. So humility, let's see. So let me find that one really quick. And then, oh wait, that, it is, that's in one of the wisdoms, I think. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So this is a really pretty one because this is the bird standing. Okay, cool, thanks. Bird standing here with the water, which I think this is a really pretty card. And it says, water supports all life, but asks for no reward. It stays grounded, low to the earth, and curious about every unexplored crevice. But water moves powerfully nonetheless. How freeing to say, I don't know, or I'm sorry, I need your help. I have so much to learn. Okay. And that, I think, gets to our ideas around looking for who's going to help us, looking for who's going to support us. Again, maybe these ideas. It's interesting that this is after productivity and ancestry, because I think this is saying to us, yeah, don't be afraid. You're in a new space. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. A lot of times we feel like we have to go in and fake it till we make it, right? But maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe it's okay to say, you know what? I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where we're going from here. And, or, I don't know what's going, I don't have a good strong lock on where something's going to go forward. So yeah, so it's definitely like reminding us that maybe we don't know everything, and that's okay. And then interestingly, okay, our outcome card here is domination. Okay, and that shows this bird in the cage, and there's like another bird kind of standing on top of it. Now this card, okay, is about, as much as this is a card about control, there is somehow a sense of not having any. This card asks on whom or what you are dependent, and to reassess where you consent to giving away your power. Is there an outside force keeping you here, or are you choosing to stay in the suffering? This is potentially liberating card. The cage is open. Okay. So this almost reminds me of the understanding card in the Osho Zen deck. It's where the birds are flying. There's these bars, but they're actually open. So, right. Okay. So what are ideas are we tied to? And where are we staying in situations where we're saying, well, it's this outside force, it's not me. But the question is, do you have more choices than you think you do? A lot of times we think we don't have a choice. And and with the humility card next to this, what that says to me is that, okay, what we actually are thinking here with humility is that, that the idea that, this may also go back to wanting to do, having to be the ones who know, not wanting to be in a space where we say, I don't know. So we've got these ideas that we're kind of surrounded by. We're in a space where we don't know, so we may feel like we're out of control. So we have to go back to the thing that gives us some control. But keeping your feet on the ground and kind of flowing with what's going on. And again, with productivity, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being productive. We're building structures here, but also recognize that the unexpected is part of life too. The aspects, of course, are stronger right now for this kind of, chaos that I guess we've had lately. But it's also saying that this is also part of life, that this is going to happen. I mean, it may be happening more right now, but yeah, but just, it's definitely telling us to revisit our old ideas, and recognizing that we don't know can be freeing. And saying I don't know doesn't mean I have to be scared. I mean, as we've shown, I don't know can also mean we're going on an adventure, right? So, yeah. I think this is trying to kind of push us back in those directions of being more open, of trying to of letting go and just allowing that space to flow in, where maybe it is more childlike, where we're trying to, where we are allowing our imagination to work, and where we are open to learning, okay, open to learning new things, because all of us are learning things right now, and that can be a great thing. It doesn't have to be a chore. Okay, it's time to go, but I'm going to do one more card, and that's Clary Sage from the Essential Oil deck. The keyword here is insight, and the trigger statement is there's no hope. The true statement is they're calling it a higher purpose, or I'm going to say there's a method to the madness. Connect with your higher self and allow yourself, I guess, to be guided to your higher purpose, or towards what's authentic, I would say. As the veil of illusion falls away, you will find your answer. Okay, so that's interesting. I think this is more about like connecting to our inner voice and saying, okay, let that be the determinant of what's real, and be willing to sit with the mystery too, because sometimes we don't always know. And right now, and it's actually, I think it's kind of giving you permission to not know certain things. It's okay not to know. Our mind wants an answer and a resolution and a plan and a this and that, but sometimes just letting go of control, things just flow to us and it resolves itself. So that seems to be the message for today. So thank you guys for joining me. I will be back on tomorrow morning. So I hope all of you have a great Tuesday. And yeah, have a great day. Hope to stay warm if you're in the Northeast, or in, up where any place in the North. And I will see you tomorrow morning. So take care.